We're heading to a 50% obesity rate in the United States of adults by 2030. So then, like, what is detox? Is like, well, it's removing non-self from self. So say someone is like very scattered and having a hard time sleeping and seems to be having more accidents or injuries or like just bumping into things. And it's just really having a hard time managing just life in the modern world. Hey everyone, it's Kate Stillman with the Thrive with Kate podcast, formerly Yoga Healer podcast. And I'm here with Gabby, who's been working with me for, quite a few months now, almost half a year. And we decided to do a podcast on like how I guide a detox. We're also going to do a free workshop on how I guide a weight loss challenge that we've just scheduled for mid-September. So if you're in our school, skool.com, if you're in Club Thrive waitlist, you can get into these for free and add them to your calendar. And you'll just learn a lot. As a wellness pro, it's really important to know how to guide a detox and how to guide a weight loss challenge. We're heading to a 50% obesity rate in the United States of adults by 2030. And as wellness pros, we might not want to work with weight loss. We might not want to work with detox. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to guide towards wellness, you should know how to detox someone and you should know how to help someone lose weight. So that's where we're going to start the conversation, Kathy, is with some strong convictions.
Yeah, I love those convictions, Kate. And I guess to start off with, for the new listeners out there, let's do some introduction and background on your journey in the wellness industry, as well as how did you start with guiding detoxes?
Yeah, the year was 2002, and I had recently moved back from San Francisco, where I had been in school for yoga at the Iyengar Yoga Institute, and I was become a practitioner of Ayurvedic medicine at California College of Ayurveda. So I was in California for a few years, studying and seeing clients and interning and working at both of the colleges and learning. And then I decided to move back to Idaho for a number of reasons, one of which was to ski a lot and lifestyle business and really like start where I wanted to grow. My family was there. I had moved my parents out from the East Coast to Idaho before I'd left for California for schools. So I moved back to Idaho and I realized in the spring that I needed to detox because I had already had that habit of detoxing from Ayurveda college. And so I knew I needed to do a spring cleanse. And it's hard to do a cleanse by yourself. It's a lot easier if you feel like you're part of a group doing something so that you don't back out when it gets hard or when the other people around you aren't doing something. The other thing was I needed to make money. Like I had a mortgage for the first time in my life, and it was the off season, which at that time, and it's not true now, but at that time it was a very seasonal community where people would vacation in the summer and winter, and that drove a lot of the economy. And then people would leave in the spring and the autumn, but I still needed to make money. So I thought, well, I need to launch something and I need to detox, so I might as well launch my first detox.
I love that story on how you started on detoxing. And you went a bit about communal activity, right? That detoxes should be done in a group. My question there for you is, should there be a minimum number of the communal people? Or could it be, is two a group? Is that considered a group?
That in wellnesspro.academy, that's considered more of like a VIP experience where you as the wellness pro are guiding someone one-on-one. And we can get into that and into pricing. And for me, in getting to a place where I could grow my online business, I needed in many ways, I needed to like earn quite a bit of money so that I had enough time to grow yogahealer.com back in the day. And so I did a lot of like very high priced one-on-one detoxes with clients. As far as like a group and guiding a detox in a group, and this is such a good differentiation, and we do this in Wellness Pro Academy, where it's like you may have your VIP offer and then you have your general club offer, and it's helpful for wellness pros to think about separating those two things out. Everyone in VIP, we encourage in Wellness Pro Academy, everyone in VIP should have access to the general club, and that strengthens the overall business for the wellness pros, but also the results of both members, of both groups of members, both the VIP members and your general club members. So when I was leading yoga health coaching, which we may be bringing back, we would basically tell people 5, like you need 5 members to have a dynamic group. So 5 members plus a leader and it's like a good minimum. It's a good baseline, because if we get to 4 members and a leader, and say one of those or 2 of those members drop out, it starts to get a little too small. It starts to feel a little bit like there's not enough momentum. So I'd say 5.
Okay. So thanks for differentiating that. I didn't realize that just 2 would be more of like a VIP experience. And I guess for those new to the concept, can you explain what a detox is and the primary benefits? Like, what's the difference of a detox besides from what are the other wellness offers they have?
Yeah, this seems like in many ways, like it's such a simple question. If you take that question to Google, depending on the year, pre-COVID versus post-COVID Google, like you might find out that like it's just on, quackery, this whole concept of detoxing the body. My background is in Eastern medicine, so I'm not coming from an allopathic pharmacology background with detox. And I think that's an important distinction. And we do work with quite a few doctors in Wellness Pro Academy who do come from that background, or nurses or nurse practitioners or physical therapists, people more from the disease diagnosis perspective. In Eastern medicine, we do diagnose disease, but in the pathogenesis is a pathway back to health. And that's a really big distinction between Eastern medicine and allopathic or Western medicine. So in Eastern medicine, the concept of anything that blocks the physiology from efficiency is considered something that shouldn't be there. So the word for toxin in Ayurveda is different. And this is another, like, for the Ayurvedic practitioners and the holistic practitioners listening, this might be like an aha moment. The words are different for toxin and for waste. So waste is functional in Eastern medicine. So like your pee is functional. It's a mala. Your feces is functional. It's a mala. Your menses is functional. It's a mala. Your sweat is even functional. It's a mala. But toxin is not functional, and it's not a mala. It's called ama. So it's something that's in the body that shouldn't be in the body, and it's disrupting the intelligence of the overall organism. So then, like, what is detox is like, well, it's removing non-self from self. To me, that's like the easiest way of thinking about it. It's like there's stuff in the cells. So if we look at it by a tissue by tissue basis, we could say there's excess triglycerides in the blood, or there's endocrine disrupting chemicals in the fat cells, right? We could look at it at that way. In Eastern medicine, we look at things a little bit differently. We might say that there's even an excess force in the body. So say someone is having a hard time, is like very scattered and having a hard time sleeping, and seems to be having more accidents or injuries, or like just bumping into things. And it's just really having a hard time managing just life in the modern world. And they're very, just like nervous and just that this fear-based mentality, not enoughness, just kind of grasping and looking for groundedness. Like if we look at that person with detox, we might even say that they're going to detox wind. from the body. And again, anyone from like an allopathic mindset like this doesn't make any sense. But we could think of it as there's a force within them that, and we could call it nerves. You know, we could say like their nervous system is really triggered, that is driving behaviors that are not actually who the person is when they're grounded. So then we might detox just to like move that excess wind out of the physiology and restore more of the grounding elements of earth and water, so that the person can just, honestly, so that they can exhale. And when they do, they often reverse diaphragmatic breathing. So when you have reverse diaphragmatic breathing, it means you really can't get that full like exhale. And you're often constipated, and you're often like, people will even lose their menstrual cycle because the downward flow of the wind isn't happening. The downward movement, we call movement wind in Ayurveda, isn't happening. So just removing that excess force from the body, which we have words for in Eastern medicine, we just don't have them in English. So that word force is called dosha in Ayurveda. So we might detox to remove the ama, the toxin, which can have a physicality. And then we also might detox to remove excess forces from the body, whether that's heat intensity or wind or excess coagulation, which might be like water or earth.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned some of the fear-based anxiety, and I guess that also streams from having, the unhealthy lifestyle and having these bloatings and indigestions. And there is some misconception about detoxes. People are shying away from it. They hear detox, they're like, I don't want to do that. That's maybe woo-woo stuff. Does that even really work? So for you, what are some common misconceptions that people have about detoxes, and what would you say about those?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm really thinking of the wellness pros out there who maybe have never led a detox, or maybe tried and not, like, no one signed up, right? Or maybe launched and a few people signed up and then people didn't really cross the finish line. Like, because a lot of things can happen. And I've led over, I mean, we say over 50 detoxes, and that's definitely an underestimate, but a lot over the last 22, 23 years. So I've seen it all, and I've been in all of these really awkward situations that any of you might find yourself in. So I do speak with a great deal of experience and a great deal of humility, as well, from like, gosh, when you're in that place where you feel like you've had a lot of benefit as a wellness pro from detoxing, and you're in that place where you feel like you're like trying to convince others, and that you don't want to have to convince them because it works, and yet you find yourself in what are their misconceptions about. So I would say, drum roll, the number one misconception is probably that it's too hard, or that they need more time. So it'll feel too hard because they don't have enough time and they're already stressed. And this is adding one more thing. And the way that I think about it is, a typical modern person who's not grounded or not in sync or not in flow or not what we might say in circadian rhythm, right? If we wanted to get technical about it, we'd say that their circadian rhythm is off, which might mean that their microbiome that sets the circadian rhythm is not diverse, which might mean that they're in dysbiosis, that they are bloated and they do have indigestion, and they might be carrying an extra 15, 20 pounds, and they might not sleep continuously, for a good night's sleep. Like, they have all these issues, right? And so they have all of these props, and I think of them like crutches. And so the crutches might be sugar, the crutches might be caffeine, the crutches might be winding down with a glass of wine and watching Netflix, right? There's all these crutches. And what you're saying to them is like, I'm going to take away all of your crutches. And they're saying, well, I'm not going to do that because that's the only thing that's propping me up.
Right.
Yeah. So the misconception may be, well, and it might be fair, because you might not, like, you could take away all their crutches and they could really go into a healing crisis, or they could go into a family crisis or a work crisis or just an emotional crisis, which is a healing crisis. Like they could really be like, oh, shoot, part of the reason I have these crutches is I don't like my job or I don't like my marriage or I'm not a good parent. Right. But these crutches are keeping like the Netflix and the wine and the caffeine and the distraction. It's all keeping everything. It's all working together right now. And it's creating an ego. It's creating an identity, which is just what an ego is. It's a construct of habits and beliefs. So it's creating all that. And you're saying like, I'm going to take that away. Pay me money. I want to take that away from you.
I know how. I'll guide you to it.
I'll guide you right through it.
Yeah, that's just a nice way of putting it. I like how you used crutches and taking that out. That's a new way of looking to it instead of just thinking it's a bunch of fear, anxiety. How do I help them through it? So I love that ideation of how you put that. And, you having led so many detoxes, maybe more than 50, I'm pretty sure you've had a lot of experiences and maybe horror stories. So why don't you share some of that? Like, what's the most challenging or surprising situations from your past detoxes?
Oh, surprising situations. This is a good one. So I'm remembering back to when I was doing in-person detoxes in yoga studios. So this one was in Jackson Hole. And there was a lovely, beautiful woman who actually ran a very successful online streaming yoga business like 15 years ago. So she was way ahead of the curve. And she was just vivacious and vibrant. And I was teaching at this studio, this detox at this studio that she was affiliated with. And so she showed up and I was really psyched to have her there. And I, at the time, was attracting a lot of yoga teachers and a lot of healers into detoxes. And that's what we might find actually as wellness pros is we might want to work with people that are very much, in that crutch situation. And they might not respond to the term detox, but that doesn't mean you can't guided detox. It's just, we might change some of the words. We might call it a reset or a challenge or a makeover. And we might, like what we're in our detox certification at Wellness Pro Academy, I'm like super clear in the onboarding process of that like many of the people that you work with might really just need a habit reset before you can do a deeper detox with them, and how to start out with beginner groups like that might really not have the time and really not have the bandwidth for what some of us might just love to do as wellness pros in our own personal detoxes. So in any case, I'm guiding this detox. There's maybe 30 people in the detox, and there's a lot of people with a lot of experience. And so we're doing a pretty deep detox, Ayurvedic type of detox. And we're like a good week into the process. And she messages me and she's like, I'm at the bar drinking beer, eating a hamburger. I'm dropping out. And that was just such a surprise to me because of who I thought she was. And I think my training was very strict in Ayurveda and yoga, both in the United States and in India. And so I had already gone through so many phases of detox where you're developing a lot of, I don't want to use willpower, but there's a phase in detox, in fasting, any type of fasting where it's challenging because you're going from digesting experiences and digesting food that's exogenous or taken in from outside of the body to digesting material from within the physiology and experiences from within the physiology. And so it's like very much a going into the cave. And once you're in the cave, you're usually like most people are pretty happy once they're in the cave if they don't have to go back into the outside world, if they can just do the cave thing for a while and really be in the detox. And in Ayurvedic medicine, the process of panchakarma, pancha means 5, karma means action. It's very much a process of receiving a lot of body work and receiving a lot of oil therapies that drive you away from the outer world into the cave so that your body goes into autophagy and apoptosis, that you're actually digesting, you're upcycling your own physiology, including your past memories and traumas, and releasing from the process of digestion. But if you're trying to navigate like the 3 kids and you're used to the glass of wine and you're used to the caffeine and like we're taking those things out, it's easy to realize that like you have no business being in the cave right now.
Right. And I hear that, and it is a challenging experience, especially for those with kids. And how do you balance going to a detox where you don't eat much, and then you have to cook like these cheeseburgers for your kids, for example, or they want pizza? It can be a tough time.
Yeah.
So how do you handle those participants who are having a hard time during the detox?
Such a good question, and again, I'm just going to kind of go back to like humility. And one thing that I wish I had learned earlier was around, just the compassion and empathy of like, what can someone really do based on where they're starting, and like, what's really going to be my role as the guide so that they have a positive experience and want to make this into a habit. So in coaching within the Body Thrive community, which was based on my first book on up-level your body and your life with the 10 habits of Ayurveda and yoga. And I led Body Thrive from 2013 until 2022 when we transmuted into Club Thrive, and have continued to lead the members annually, twice a year through Detox, and now twice a year through fast mimicking diet, which we'll get more into when we do the how to guide a weight loss challenge. What I have found is that the habit, like embedding the idea of that detox, it's a habit and it's a skill. In Ayurveda, it's called Ritocharya. So Ritu means seasonal, charya is the wheel. So Dinacharya is the daily wheel. That's like our daily habit cycle, our circadian daily rhythm habit cycle. Ritocharya is our seasonal habit cycle. And Ayurveda is very clear in the ancient texts that you have this incredible opportunity a few times a year when the weather changes. And when the weather changes, you can release the excess forces and you can release any buildup of toxins or that ama. So like you have the wind behind your back, which I'm on the lake right now. And when you're paddling like upwind, it's so hard. Like you often just feel like you're exerting all this effort and you're not going anywhere. And when you're paddling with the wind at your back, you just feel like, oh, I'm so amazing. I'm so fast. I'm so in shape. Look at me go. And so that Ritocharya is saying like, just paddle with the wind at your back, like detox when the seasons are changing, when changes in the air. So when we do that, and when we teach that, hey, we're like, this isn't something that's just going to come and go, me leading a detox. Like this is something that I'm going to teach you how to do consistently. Just like any yoga teacher isn't just going to teach one class now and then, but they're going to continually guide their members in the habit. They're going to develop a habit of yoga. And when we develop a habit of yoga or a habit of meditation or a habit of cooking for ourselves at home or a habit of going to bed earlier, a habit of seasonal detox, what happens is we get good at that habit. And the better we get at that habit, the more we're able to unlock new levels of consciousness, which is why the yogis are into detox. And we're also able to unlock higher levels of being pain-free while aging. Right? So changing how we age. I think a lot of people, including myself, use it to do a weight reset, to like really to just recalibrate. So like you can let things get out of hand because you've got your next detox on the schedule.
You can enjoy that, free food on the vacation. Just make sure it talks.
Exactly. I mean, really, like I can't, like I'm not even as strict with like intermittent fasting rhythm now that we, 4 times a year have these detoxes and fast mimicking diet and Club Thrive. And, the other, I do want to talk a little bit about, horror stories, healing crises. Like the horror story only happens when you don't know what to do. So for me, like there was one time early on, I didn't know what to do. Like I had someone that just was having like insane heat rashes. So there's all this heat coming out of his body. And I was like, I mean, I kind of knew what to do in terms of textbook, but I didn't have the experience of guiding someone in that situation. And so we might be textbook smart, which is great. It's super helpful. Thank gosh I was textbook smart because I had a ton of recommendations that worked. But I was freaked out because I was like, I hope that works. So I hope, putting a ton of aloe vera juice in their system, and cilantro juice and cucumber juice and getting them off the hot sauce. And, like, I hope this really works, and having them take cold showers and find a cold lake to bathe in. And like, I hope this works because like, otherwise it is really scary when you've told someone to do something and they have a healing crisis where their body's dumping more toxins. And all that usually is the body's dumping more than the person can digest in real time or
I see.
exude. And often there's channels that are blocked. So if there's, say the liver is overloaded, say the gallbladder is overloaded with biliary stones and the liver's overloaded with biliary stones, and there's a lot of endocrine disrupting chemicals in the fat cells, and the person's constipated, and they're dehydrated, like deeply dehydrated at the level of, I don't know, it's kind of easier to just describe the experience where you just feel like your tissue's not soft. It usually goes with aging, where like the muscle tissue gets really rigid, almost like tendons and ligaments. So like that level of dehydration, it's like you start dumping toxins out of the organs, and whether the fat tissue is an organ, the liver is an organ, and the body is just like, there's nowhere for it to go. So then it starts coming out through like the skin or so. In Wellness Pro Academy, the detox certification, like we talk a lot about how to look at what's going on and start to improve our skill set with that and be able to make recommendations. But we also help you do things like not have someone go into a deep healing crisis if possible.